everybody. Welcome to another episode of Two Strike Noise, your favorite weekly baseball history podcast. Joining us, as always, from the Spike Owen studio in the Pacific Northwest, the only Mariners captain in team history, Mark A. Johnston. Mark, you are loving life right now during the playoffs, aren't you?
Oh, it's crazy, man. It is as exciting as it could be for me right now. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, might. As we record this, one win away from advancing to the ALCS. I hope I didn't jinx it there, but yeah, we talked about how many playoff games you had worked last week. Worked another one. I'm wishing you good luck. I hope you get many more. Something that we talk about later on is some of these broadcast teams for the playoffs. Some surprising things that you'll hear a little bit later in the show. But this is episode number 300, Mark. We've done 299 of these things in the past. 300. They said we'd never get past 298, and here we are.
That's right.
Yeah, this is a special show for us, but also there is a topic. So we talk about Seinfeld all the time on this show. One of the pop culture references that we talk about, Mark and I both big Seinfeld fans, and obviously a lot of baseball in Seinfeld. So for episode number 300, we're going to talk about the show that was about nothing. So typically this podcast is going to be about nothing this week, just stuff. But we have got a special guest that is, we're going to talk Seinfeld, we're going to talk Hall of Fame voting, we're going to talk a bunch of stuff. Stick around for that. We have got Ryan Fagan joining us, who is worked for the Sporting News for a long time. He knows all about baseball cards. He knows all about Seinfeld. He knows all about baseball. He's a Hall of Fame voter. A great conversation we had with him. So make sure to stick around for that. But before we do that, Mark, if we've learned nothing from the previous 299 shows, we know we got to warm up properly, and it's time to do that during our BP segment.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Mark, I don't think I'd heard about this before, but Derek Bell, who we've talked about before in the past, I think of him mainly as an Astro.
Was he a killer bee or was he not?
He was, just simply because his name had the letter B in it. That's about it. But what I wondered, I had never heard about Operation Shutdown. Do you remember Operation Shutdown?
I can't say I do.
Yeah, so this happened, I don't know, I gotta find out what year this happened in. What freaking year? 2002? 2002. Yeah. All right. So in 2002, Derek Bell was signed by the Pittsburgh Pirates. You can imagine what a 2002 Pittsburgh Pirates team is probably like, but never made it. Because he essentially told the Pirates, I'm not going to battle for that position. It's either mine or it's not. So he said, I'm not going to play spring training games, not going to do anything unless I'm the left fielder. And the Pirates said, okay. The season before, he had only played in 46 games. He was hurt. He hit 173. He's getting into his mid-30s at this point. For a player that he had a couple of good years in 94 and 95, but beyond that, like an average, maybe above average player. I think I know him best for Joe Carter trying to raffle off his brand new Chevy Blazer and drove it around the outfield of the Sky Dome when he was a rookie in 91. But yeah, Derek Bell said, it's either my spot or I'm out. And they said, see you later. And that was the end of his career.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that now. That I didn't know it was called Operation Shutdown, but that was part of the quote, I think.
Yeah, that's what he called it. Then I'm going, if I ain't going out there to hurt myself in spring training, battling for a job. If it's an open competition, then I'm going into Operation Shutdown.
And the Pirates did pay him his $4.5 million, even though he didn't play.
They probably got more value out of that 4.5 paying him not to play than he did.
Probably at that point.
Yeah. So I had I don't think I'd heard of that. I don't think I'd forgotten that. I forget a lot. I think I just didn't hear that one. Some sad news. Hopefully it doesn't get more sad, but we talk about Jesus Montero a bit here. Generally, we clown on him, especially when it comes to ice cream sandwiches.
Yes.
But let's keep him in our thoughts right now. Earlier this week on Monday, he was in an accident. He is currently in critical condition in Venezuela, where he was riding a motorcycle and a drunk driver ran into him. He has multiple leg fractures, several broken ribs, and a severely compressed lung and other organs. He is currently in a medically induced coma and will need to undergo kidney dialysis.
Yeah, I read that's rough, man. That's not. We have fun talking about him and stuff, but that's rough for anybody.
Yeah, we certainly don't. We've talked about the ice cream sandwich thing. I think recently we did.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah, we certainly would not wish ill on anybody, and hopefully keep Miguel in your thoughts. Hopefully he will pull out of this and be okay. I also wanted to mention this, Mark. I was watching Japanese baseball. They're wrapping up their season. I was watching a game the other day and just noticing that it's baseball like it was in the 90s. Kind of more 2000s because they still wear the baggy jerseys. But when I say that, I mean no pitch clock, no mound visit limit, no throwing over limit, anything like that. It's just still baseball the way that we know baseball from like 10 years ago. They are going to try out in their offseason league bigger bases. But that's it. That's the only thing they're going to try out is the bigger bases, which I don't know. I don't think the big bases have made any difference.
I haven't noticed anything or even read anything about it.
Yeah, maybe there's a stolen base or a play or two where the runner might have gotten there a half a second earlier, but that's really it. But what Japan is really shooting for with the bigger bases is for player safety. Apparently, there's not as much contact on the bases between the runner and the fielders with these bigger bases.
Makes sense.
Kind of. I don't know.
You just look at area.
Except for the Chase Utley situation at second base. I don't know, but all these quotes from all these Japanese players are all because they've used it so far in these training games. Here's one player saying, "I felt the base was closer when sliding into third. It was good. There was no contact with runners today." And then one fan, I love this, they got a fan's quote on the bigger bases, said, quote, "Fans are happiest when players can play an entire season injury-free. So I think it's a good initiative," end quote. That's very Japanese. Don't ever want to say anything negative about anything. But I guess more power to I guess if they're going to adopt one thing, this is it, because it's not a pitch timer or a ghost runner or anything, which we love all of these rule changes. We're on board with every one of these, I think.
Absolutely.
It is nice to see in the postseason no ghost runner. That Mariner game that went 14 innings the other day?
Yeah.
Good to see. I like it. But
it was fun.
So they're going to try that. The World Baseball Classic is going to have the bigger bases. I don't know what other rules they're going to have next year, but I'm excited for it. All right, Mark, that's going to do it for our BP segment. Let's go ahead, wrap it up. Let the grounds crew come out and do their thing. And let's get into the main segment of the show. All right, so this is our 300th episode. I was saying earlier, I think 296 of them we've had Seinfeld references that we've made. Mark and I, huge Seinfeld fans. And so we've been asked many times, hey, you should do a Seinfeld show. So we thought 300 episodes, this is the way to go. So, Mark, we have a special guest, somebody I've talked to on social media for a while, and finally, I think this is the time to do it. He is a former writer, 18 years with the Sporting News, a Hall of Fame voter, so we'll get into that for sure. And we're wearing the same hat and the same shirt as well right now. It is Ryan Fagan. Thank you for joining us, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm pretty honored to be here for such a momentous episode. At 300 is cool, but I mean, look, literally anytime I can talk Seinfeld and baseball, two of my favorite things, I'm all over that for sure.
Yeah, so you wrote
perfect for the show then.
Yeah. You wrote an article, I think was it 2016 was the original one, and then I think you it's been updated since then of Seinfeld references in baseball.
Yeah, I think it was initially in 2015, and I was looking at it this morning, and there is an updated date on that, but I think that's just when the company refreshed all their stories, something like that. I will say though, there was one. Sometimes as writers, we try to do as much research as we can, but there are things that we overlook, right? It just happens sometimes. There is one moment that when I initially published this, I had completely forgotten. I felt like a complete failure because I just neglected it. And it was one of my favorite moments, but I got so caught up in all the other clips that I totally forgot about it. And I can tell you now, we can get to it when you bring it up.
Let's hear. Let's see.
It was the Joe DiMaggio, the Dinky Donuts.
The Dinky Donuts dunker.
Somebody brought it up, and I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" It's like that feeling, that pit in your stomach. You're like, "Oh no!" So I immediately updated it. Probably put it a little lower. I think I wound up at 8, but that's because I didn't want to slot it too much higher because then I'll be admitting that I forgot it the first time. But yeah, it's. There's just so many of them. Like, you feel like the list was already like 16 long, and I felt like there can't be any more. I can't have missed anything. And then there it was.
Well, that's the great thing about Seinfeld, though, is it's such a great show, but Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld are such big baseball fans that they've worked it in so many times. I mean, George working for the Yankees, there's a couple of seasons of content right there that is just, kind of a tangent sometimes, but they still drop in some great ones. I'm a big, I think Mark is too, a big Curb Your Enthusiasm fan as well, being a Seinfeld fan. And of course I think the biggest reference there is the episode that was actually used in a lawsuit to prove somebody's innocence.
Yes, at Dodgers, because they were at Dodger Stadium and they were filmed.
Yeah. But
unbelievable.
Nothing quite as spectacular in Seinfeld, but let's go around the table here and find out what is your favorite Seinfeld baseball moment.
And I will say this, I think, I've done a lot of these lists. Like I went through and did rank the best quotes in Major League, the best quotes in Bull Durham, and these are impossible to have a right answer, right? So I always just think, okay, I'm just going to put it down, right? And whatever the order is the order that I was feeling in the moment. And if other people have opinions, that's great. So, but number one, it's the second spitter. I mean, it's everything. It's nuance. It's from Kramer and Newman heckling the guys in the bullpen. And that's, again, when the bullpens were down the line, right? So you'd be right on top of them as opposed to in their own little enclaves kind of behind the outfield fence like they are in a lot of places now. But that was what came in at number one. It's just, it's so good. It's just, it shows that, as you mentioned, clearly they know baseball, right? They're not just trying to drop this in. It references, all of us who kind of stayed after games, maybe trying to get an autograph from players by waiting where they walk to their cars and back as it used to be. It's just, it's got so much of everything. And the writing is so great. I mean, we have the magic loogie. I mean, the incontrovertible laws of physics. That's just, I mean, it's so great. I went back and forth. That was the one that just felt like that had to be up atop.
Now, do you separate the magic loogie from the boyfriend?
Yes, because I think that they're different Keith Hernandez plots, right? They're totally different because Elaine's not really involved aside from being told the story. She's not involved directly in that. And I think plus because it's so great, right? I mean, it's such it stands on its own because even if the second spitter episode never happened, that story never happened, the boyfriend element, and I'm not driving him to the airport, like all of these different things, you don't know the first thing about getting all these different lines. They stand on their own so much. Yeah. If I was trying to consolidate and I could see a case for that, but to me, they're completely separate plot lines. They happen to involve Keith Hernandez, but they both stand on their own so well that I had to put those as separate ones.
I agree because, first of all, I think The Boyfriend was a supersized episode, which they used to do.
Yeah, it's two-parter, right?
So, yeah but it was all one when it originally aired, they just showed it in one block.
Gotcha. Okay.
So technically that's 2 episodes for Keith. And then he also was in the crowd in the finale in the in the courtroom, which apparently he recorded some lines of dialogue, but it got cut. But he stands above Danny Tartable, who of course is in 2 episodes for some reason.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, I think everybody, at least we've talked about it before, knows that game that they're referencing when they're heckling the pitchers and then call Keith Hernandez pretty boy, which is just cracks me up still, didn't actually exist. That June 14th, 1987, the Mets were in Pittsburgh and Keith had a great game. He went 2 for 4 with a home run. I think we've also talked about this before. Originally, it was supposed to be Darryl Strawberry was the second spitter.
Right.
Some problematic guys on those teams for the Mets, though.
I mean, McDowell was, whether he was in the first choice or not, he was the perfect choice, right? Because of just who he was. I mean, I remember there's so many great cards of Roger McDowell where you see his kind of personality showing through. There's the one that comes to mind right away is the 93 Upper Deck, which, as an aside, the 93 Upper Deck set is just incredible. Aside from 87 Topps, it might be my favorite set of all time because the photography is amazing. It's just, I love everything about it. But he's wearing the shirt that says Lasorda U, like Tommy Lasorda University. He's got that, I think, the white headband on. And yeah, I mean, he was perfect for the exact kind of Mets player. Like, if you'd have asked me what Mets player from that kind of general era would be one to spit on a fan, if I was picking someone that was going to do it because they're being mean, it would have been Lenny Dykstra. If I was going to pick for someone who was doing it to be whatever, mischievous, vengeful, it probably would have been McDowell.
Yeah.
A true villain.
Yes.
Yeah, we can say whatever we want about Lenny Dykstra here because a judge has actually ruled that you can't possibly slander Lenny Dykstra because he's done so many things that have been awful that he can't sue anybody for that.
I think it may have been after this, but for a while, Lenny followed me on Twitter and commented on a couple of different things that I posted. And I was just like, what a surreal life I am living right now.
He caught you in his sights.
Yes. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to acknowledge, but I'm not getting involved.
Not going to engage. I saw this. I'd never seen this before, but Julia Louis-Dreyfus claimed that she was at Game 6 of the 86 World Series.
I saw that in your notes. That's really cool.
Which is weird because in the episode, Jerry claims that he was there and Elaine doesn't know anything about it. I don't know if I believe this or not, but
I mean, why would Elaine be there? She's an Orioles fan, right?
Well, yeah, I'm
just kidding.
No, I see. Yes.
See what I did there? Yeah.
Which brings us to, well, first of all, I do want to say this about the Keith Hernandez thing. So I watched these kind of out of order last night, and I watched the scenes with Jerry and Keith first. And there's a scene when they're in the car after they've hung out for the first time, and you kind of hear what's going on in their heads. And, it's kind of like later we'll get Elaine and Keith in the car and you can hear what they're talking about. But They plan to go see a movie on Friday and Keith asks, you want to go see JFK? And it elicits a laugh. And I'm like, that's kind of an odd reference. And then I remembered, they did this whole JFK breakdown of the Magic Loogie.
Yes.
So it's kind of a callback. And then it made sense. And then, of course, we get the incredible Elaine and Keith car scene where you get the I'm Keith Hernandez at the end, which is just great. It's classic.
Literally prepping to talk to you guys just sucked like 3 hours out of my day yesterday and this morning because it's like rabbit hole, and it was amazing. It's fantastic.
Mark, what about you? What's your favorite Seinfeld moment?
Well, I also love the breakdown of the JFK scene in the Magic Loogie, but I don't want to just say the same thing. So I another scene that I really enjoy is Cotton is King.
Oh, yes.
Well, did you see it?
See what?
Their uniforms. Did you see how they played? Listen to these comments. Wade Boggs, what a fabric. Finally, we can breathe. Luis Polonia, Cotton cotton is king. Paul O'Neill, I never dreamed anything could be so soft and fluffy.
All right.
And the Yankees take the field.
And what is with the Yankees? They look like they're having trouble running. They can't move.
It's their uniforms. They're too tight. They've shrunk. They're running like penguins. Forget this game.
Oh, my God. Mattingly just split his pants.
That's a shame.
Cotton is king.
Absolutely classic.
I forgot that's where the Jerry, that's a shame line comes in.
I left that in there because that's just classic.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Buck Showalter is also name dropped in that, actually in this one. Yeah, he was actually in this one.
Yeah, he commented on Danny Tartable having a hole in his swing.
Yeah. So one of the great Seinfeld episodes is The Abstinence. You know, King of the Castle.
Yeah.
And that has a baseball tie-in as well, as George becomes a hitting guru, which during the pandemic, he could have made a lot of money on the internet being a hitting guru.
Right.
But this was Derek Jeter and Bernie Williams. This was just 2 weeks after they had beaten the Braves in the World Series. They flew to L.A. for a day and did this. And I found this note. I hadn't heard this before, but during filming, after George hits a home run, because that's what George does, Jeter said, "Jesus Christ." And they're like, "No, you can't do that. We need to start." We're big Jeter fans here. I'm saying
it's funny that of all the players that would do that, it'd be Jeter, you know, the guy with the reputation as the sparkling,
the biracial angel.
Never says anything wrong or inflammatory, would be the one that, says something he shouldn't on a TV show.
We mentioned, we were just talking beforehand, the fantasy camp. So this is I think it's funny. I've gone to a couple of fantasy camps with a team that no longer exists, and I could just imagine this happening. Kramer, whose whole life is a fantasy camp.
I thought you weren't coming back till Monday.
Well, the camp ended a few days early.
Why?
Well, there was an incident.
What happened?
I punched Mickey Mantle in the mouth.
What?
Yeah, I punched him, and they took him to the hospital, and then they canceled the rest of the week.
You punched who in the mouth?
Mickey Mantle.
What happened?
Well, we were playing a game, and, I was pitching, and I was really, throwing some smoke. And Joe Pepitone, he was up, and man, that guy, he was crowding the plate.
Wow, Joe Pepitone.
Yeah, well, Joe Pepitone or not, I own the inside of that plate. So, I throw one, inside, a little chin music, right on his pants. Because I got to intimidate, when I'm on the mound. Well, the next pitch, he's right back in the same place. So I had to plunk him.
You plunked him?
Oh, yeah. Well, he throws down his bat. He comes racing up to the mound. Next thing, both benches are cleared, A brouhaha breaks out between the guys in the camp, and the old Yankee players. And as I'm trying to get Moose Scaron off of one of my teammates, somebody pulls me from behind, and I turned around and I popped him. I looked down and, whoa, man, it's Mickey. I punched his lights out.
Now, what's funny about that is he said he was pulling Moose Scourin off of somebody. Moose Scourin was involved in the Copacabana fight and was a former Marine and was known as kind of a tough guy. So that adds an extra layer onto this.
Seriously, they clearly knew what they were doing, right? It wasn't, as we talked about, it wasn't just a show that was like, well, we should mention some sort of sports thing. Let's try to work it in.
No.
Yeah, Moose, we had, for a time at Sporting News, we had a pretty long Rolodex of contact numbers for players. And our editor at the time loved to have as many Yankees quoted as we could in the magazine. And so I talked to Moose on like 3 or 4 occasions, and he was always great, and I think by the end, he was Moose I talked to a lot, and had Bobby Richardson on the phone 7 or 8 times. And yeah, it was just kind of fun. This was cool to see. When you mentioned Moose there, I was like, good memories.
Probably another top one. I think this might be, and we're both wearing the shirt. Obviously, our listeners can't see it. I'm wearing my what the hell did you trade Jay Buhner shirt for? And so is Ryan. I am also wearing my junk wax hat that Ryan sells, and he is as well. So we look very similar, which is not a good thing for you, Ryan. I'm
I mean, same. So sorry.
But this is just absolutely a classic line, especially Mark working for the Mariners, and I did for a while, and you see Bone walking around to know that he was involved in this is great.
I can't believe it. He was so young. How could this have happened?
Well, he'd been logging some pretty heavy hours. First one in the morning, last one to leave at night. That kid was a human dynamo.
Are you sure you're talking about George?
You are Mr. and Mrs. Costanza.
What the hell did you trade Jay Buhner for? He had 30 home runs and over 100 RBIs last year. He's got a rocket for an arm. You don't know what the hell you're doing.
Well, Buhner was a good prospect, no question about it. But my baseball people loved Ken Phelps' bat. They kept saying, Ken Phelps, Ken Phelps.
That's the best.
It just like he's there to tell them that their son is died, and he just wants to know why he traded Jay Buhner for Ken Phelps.
It's so great because every Yankees fan has always wanted always wanted the opportunity to give Steinbrenner a piece of their mind, right? So at that point, like, I'm imagining this, Frank probably hasn't heard a word that Steinbrenner said. All he knows is that George Steinbrenner is sitting in his house on his chair, and he's talking about something that is making Estelle upset, and he's just waiting for a break in the conversation so he can yell at him about Jay Buhner. It's so perfect because every fan that's been mad at an owner, and it's Steinbrenner maybe especially, but others, they've had that anticipation building for their whole lives as fans, and to get that, and you rewatch the clip and you can see Frank looks all like kind of upset, and you just assume it's because he's heard his son is dead, but what it really is he's just like, he's so mad. I still can't believe he traded Jay Buhner. And it's just, and I was looking at it, I mean, and it's a perfect example because you look at Ken Phelps' stats with Seattle that year. He had been a consistent, 25 home run guy. He was having his best year in 1988 before he was traded. He had a .434 on base percentage, an OPS 982, 14 home runs in 72 games. So they literally did need his bat. And that's what's so great about it. They trade Jay Buhner, and their performances kind of were a wash, to be honest. I think they both hit 10 home runs in the second half. But it's so perfect in so many ways when you look at what was happening with the baseball team, what was happening on all these things. And when the episode came out, because what was it, 96, I think that it came out? That's when Buhner was coming off of arguably his best year, in the middle of arguably his best year. He just had his first 40 home run season in 95. He was in the middle of a year where he was going to hit 44 home runs, 138 RBIs. So he was arguably one of the best sluggers in baseball at the time. And when the episode came out, so I mean, there's just so many layers to it. That's just, I feel like I've said this several times. Just phenomenal, just fantastic. Peak TV.
That's how George got his job too. When he was interviewing with the Yankees,
yes,
he was doing the opposite of everything that he would normally do, and that included when he met the shadow of George Steinbrenner, and he just ripped him. And Steinbrenner's like, "This is a guy." And
hire this man.
And then, of course, let's talk about George Steinbrenner. Larry David voiced him. Another actor played him. They did actually get George Steinbrenner on set to film a scene with Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Deleted scene, yeah.
And it was awful.
It was terrible. In fact, I saw an interview with Larry David talking about how awful it was and how it was just unusable, which you can tell when you watch it, like on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have that. It is not great.
But no, I get it. Yeah, I get why you didn't use that one.
How would you like to tell George Steinbrenner that, after he flew out and did that, we're not going to use it? I'm sure that wasn't a fun phone call.
Do you think they got Billy Martin?
He took it like a man.
They should have gotten Billy Martin to tell him. Sorry, George. Going back to Buhner for a second. Do you know how Buhner wound up with the Yankees? Since we're talking about the trade of Jay Buhner going from the Yankees, he arrived to the Yankees in a relatively significant deal because he was drafted by the Pirates. He was traded to the Yankees in '84 with Dale Berra, and Yogi was Dale's dad, was the manager for the Yankees at the time. So Buhner arrived with the Yankees in the momentous trade that was big at the time because the Yankees were trading for the manager's kid. And then he left in a trade that became huge, even more hugely popular and notorious a couple years later when it was on Seinfeld. So I just thought it was
I didn't know that.
Jay Buhner's been traded twice in his life, and both of them were very, very significant deals. One of them not even because of anything he had to do with. He was a throw-in. I think Steve Kemp and Tim Foley went from the Yankees to the Pirates in that deal.
That'll make some of our listeners happy that we mentioned Tim Foley. That's a ding ding. He comes up. He works on the grid often when we're playing that on stream.
For sure.
Let's just mention some of these other baseball because I do want to talk about other baseball on TV. So we did Joe DiMaggio. We've got The Boyfriend, which is obviously a thing unto itself. You mentioned the Orioles hat in the owner's box with Elaine refusing to take it off, skipping her boss's son's bris for such an occasion. I can understand that. Let's see. We talked about the opposite, how George did get his job. Cotton is King. The Pledge Drive with Danny Tartable.
Yes.
Like I said, one of two Danny Tartable appearances. I don't know why the Bull was so popular. The Paul O'Neill is a good one too, where he's got to hit 2 home runs and
for the sick kid in the hospital.
Almost.
And catch a fly ball in his cap.
But and he almost had let's listen to this because I've got some questions about this play here. So here's Paul O'Neill after he's going to be told and then he's going to play the game.
Who's your favorite Yankee?
Paul O'Neill.
All right, what if I get Paul O'Neill to hit a home run tomorrow just for you?
Really? Paul O'Neill would do that?
For you, he would.
Could he hit 2 home runs?
2? Yeah, sure, kid. Yeah, but then you got to promise you'll do something for me.
I know. Get out of this bed one day and walk again.
Yeah, that would be nice, but I really just need the car. Mr. O'Neill?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, you don't know me. About a little boy in the hospital. I was wondering if you could do something to lift his spirits.
Sure, I can help you there.
Yeah, well, I promised him that you would hit him 2 home runs today.
What?
Yeah, a couple of dingers.
You promised the kid in the hospital that I'd hit 2 home runs.
Yeah, well, no good?
No, it's no good. It's terrible. I mean, you don't hit home runs like that. It's hard to hit home runs. And where the heck do you get 2 from?
Well, 2 is better than 1.
That's ridiculous. I mean, I'm not a home run hitter.
Well, Babe Ruth did it.
He did not.
Oh, you're saying that Babe Ruth was a liar?
I'm not calling him a liar, but he wasn't stupid enough to promise 2.
Well, maybe I did overextend myself.
How the heck did you get in here anyway?
A home run for Paul O'Neill. The Yanks lead 1-0. Long fly ball in the deep left field, and it drops just over Bell's head. O'Neill's rounding second. The ball rolling back to the wall. O'Neill heading for third.
All right, go on. Come on.
O'Neill rounds third, being waved in.
Yeah, go.
And Martinez throws it over Alamar's head. O'Neill is safe at home. The Yankees take the lead.
Oh, inside the park home run. Yes.
That's being scored a triple for Paul O'Neill with a throwing error charge to Martinez.
So a triple and an error. Now I was trying 2 things I noticed. First of all, in the background, there's a batting helmet with number 42 on it, which Mariano Rivera, I don't know, was getting ready to play an interleague. I don't know if he needed a batting helmet, but I was trying to figure out what team that was. And Bell, I immediately thought of George Bell, but no, that's got to be Albert/Joey Bell because Alamar's behind the dish for Cleveland at that point. And I don't the Martinez shortstop though. I don't know who that is. but I'm assuming that's got to be a Cleveland game. But Paul O'Neill, he did an okay job for acting. Better than Danny Tartabull, for sure. Not Keith Hernandez quality, but, he's still good.
But who is, right?
Yeah. We also have the calzone. It was a big one when George Steinbrenner gets hooked on George's calzones. Taking a nap under the desk. That was a good one.
Yes.
And then the Mets want to hire him as the head of, want to hire George as the head of scouting. At what point has George done anything that would that you would want him to be the head of your scouting department? I don't know. But
I think that was probably as much a shot at the Mets as anything.
Oh. So I just a couple of questions here. Your take, Ryan, on this. I especially I'm a Mets fan now, since I know they're never going to leave. I'm a big Keith Hernandez fan, on the air, at least. Do you think any other cameo by a baseball player has been more kind of iconic than Keith Hernandez on Seinfeld?
I don't think so. I think the fact that he was there for an extended character and he held his own in the limited role that they gave him. Yeah, I can't think of anything else, because he has lines that are quoted. I'm Keith Hernandez. Like, how many times have people used versions of that line? How many times, I know he didn't say it, but like, I'm not driving to the airport, all these things, like they're all associated with Keith Hernandez in ways that have become part of our cultural lexicon. I can't, without having a complete list in front of me, and I'm looking at the one you sent over, I think clearly he's at the top of the ones that are here. I can't imagine coming up with anything else.
Yeah, he's really the only one that kind of carried an episode as a guest.
Yeah, and he interacted with all of the different characters too. I guess not really George, but yeah, he was fully integrated in those episodes, the boyfriend episodes, and it was just fantastic.
Which line is more iconic? I'm Keith Hernandez, or what the hell did you trade Jay Buhner for?
Oh, man.
See, these are the tough questions that we ask on a baseball history podcast.
The important stuff.
More iconic is...
we're both wearing a shirt.
How about I cheat on this? The more versatile one is I'm Keith Hernandez.
Yeah.
Because you can use that in so many different ways. But I think the best one is why the hell did you trade Jay Buhner for? I'm wearing on my shirt and I don't have an I'm Keith Hernandez shirt, so maybe that's the answer.
Well, I've got plenty of the Keith Hernandez shirts, so if you want one, I've got a pretty boy and a couple of I'm Keith Hernandez. And he called his last book I'm Keith Hernandez as well.
Nice.
So I do have listed here some other players in iconic TV shows. We mentioned The Simpsons quite a bit. Homer at the bat is obviously probably the most famous, but there are others. The 72 A's, Mark McGuire's makes an appearance. A bunch of players that we reference quite a bit there. Sabrina the Teenage Witch. These are our three pillars of baseball player guest stars, is The Simpsons, Seinfeld, and Sabrina the Teenage Witch, because Sabrina the Teenage Witch actually had three players, of which Mark Langston just made a quick appearance, but Steve Sachs and Brady Anderson were actually throughout an entire episode each. And Brady Anderson, well, he had great sideburns.
I was going to say, did his sideburns get a credit?
His sideburns were better than his acting. Steve Sachs, though, was great. And he, of course, is in The Simpsons as well. Steve Sachs did a great job. He's also on an episode of Who's the Boss with Billy Martin. And nice. Tommy Lasorda was on that. We referenced the player strike of 94 a bit because Saturday Night Live, a bunch of players showed up there in Chris Kattan's bedroom at night. Mark Wohlers lights up a cigarette, famously. Baywatch, Mike Piazza just in full uniforms practicing a swing on the beach, as one does. And then Married with Children, again, during the strike. We've got Piazza, we've got rapping Brett Saberhagen, we've got the Bull shows up there with Frank Thomas, Dave Winfield, and Joe Morgan. So some good players, but they all pale in comparison to Mr. Belvedere in 1989, when Wesley, if you know anything about Mr. Belvedere, that's Bob Uecker's son, gets caught cheating playing baseball. So I don't think I think Mr. Belvedere actually calls up his friends that include Willie Mays, Henry Aaron, Johnny Bench, Reggie Jackson, Ernie Banks, Mickey Mantle, and Harmon Killebrew. That's quite a group of people. So what I did,
you think, like, who was going to say no to Bob Uecker calling him up and asking him to be on his TV show? He could have literally got anybody he wanted, probably.
Yeah, I absolutely. I'm surprised Bob Gibson didn't make an appearance. That would have been nice. But what I've done is I have totaled the lifetime Baseball Reference WAR of several of these teams. So if we look at the Seinfeld group, it's a little low because they don't have a whole 9, and Roger McDowell kind of brings them down. But he was, he's a bullpen guy, so you don't expect a high WAR there. But overall, a 340 lifetime WAR for the Seinfeld group. The Simpsons, we've got to break this into 2 different groups here because we have the actual softball team. With Clemens and Scioscia and Mattingly and so forth, that equals a 570 career WAR, which is pretty good. Now, I am more interested in the Mr. Burns team, which features Mordecai Brown, Gabby Street, show favorite. We talk about him. He shows up in so many stories, I can't even believe it. Cap Anson, Nap Lajoie, Pie Traynor, Honus Wagner, Joe Jackson, Harry Hooper, and Jim Creighton. A 550 Baseball Reference WAR. So the actual softball team is still better than Mr. Burns' group. But the Mr. Belvedere group absolutely destroys everybody with a 625. And that is including Robert Goulet on the mound for this team, who I forgot to mention.
Who, according to your chart here, still has a higher WAR than Uecker.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, since he didn't actually get into a game, his career WAR is 0 and Euchre's is -1. So that is a little bit of an.
But Goulet did not hit a home run off Sandy Koufax, right? So,
no.
So you've got him there.
Yeah, there we go. I've got to assume that for you, baseball and Seinfeld, that's the best show in terms of baseball for you.
Yes, there's some games I've watched, in fact, that Seinfeld still beats. Some of the poorly played games that some of the bad Marlins teams have played in the past. I'd take the Seinfeld over that. But yeah, I think to me it's just because of when it was, like, and how it lined up to my age and life and all these different things. Yeah, that's up there at the top.
Mark, do you have any other questions for pop culture before we get into Hall of Fame?
Well, I was going to go a little further back, and one that I actually caught recently was the Mr. Ed baseball episode, and that had some pretty good players.
Oh, yeah.
Including, as we've already mentioned, this is professional podcasting, Moose Skelron was in that episode.
Wow.
Moose.
Rocher played the manager. He was actually a coach, but he played the manager. Koufax was in it, Johnny Roseboro, Willie Davis, and Vince Scully did the announcing. And it's a hilarious when Mr. Ed goes up to bat and he hits a home run, his slide into home is a classic moment in the history of television. I'm telling you.
Was it an inside the park job? Or why was he sliding?
Oh, because they could come up with the special effect. It looked funny.
Because they could.
Yeah.
Yes. I just wanted to talk about that real quick. I wanted to throw that in.
Am I going to have to quote Jurassic Park here now? And,
yeah,
they were so busy.
They didn't stop to think about
if they should. Yes.
Yeah.
This is something, though, you don't see in pop culture much anymore, is baseball players appearing on primetime shows. It doesn't happen anymore. You might get football players, but that's kind of it at this point.
Yeah.
I think baseball would love to remedy that a little bit, but
I don't know who you would.
As much.
I mean, Shohei Ohtani is obviously probably the most marketable guy, but I don't know if he would be comfortable doing that. Maybe Paul Skeens.
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think it needs to be like, because you look at the lists of that you put together and all. I mean, they're not. Everyone's not a superstar. I mean, the Steve Sachs and Brady Anderson, and
you're calling David Howard not a superstar?
I am. I'm going to go out on that limb. I mean, but it's like if baseball's going to try to, and this is a totally different conversation, but if baseball's going to try to make those inroads, right, to claim back some of the ground that is ceded, it's not about just getting the biggest guys out there. It's getting the best personalities out there. It's getting just players that people can relate to, I think. So, yeah, I mean, would you love to have with baseball, love to have Shohei and Aaron Judge, headlining guest appearances and lots of shows? Sure. But if that would be the goal, it doesn't have to be the best of the best. It just has to be someone that can make a connection.
Who do you think that is? Who is that guy that can maybe, because I think, when Mark and I were working together in Seattle, we could watch the players and you could kind of tell who was the fun guy in the clubhouse and stuff. But you don't get that when you're just watching a broadcast. Can you think of anybody in the game today that could be that kind of link?
I mean, living in St. Louis, I think like an Adam Wainwright would have been great at one point, while he was still a player. But it's guys that have like the engaging personalities that can make you laugh. Like Lindor's a guy that comes to mind. Mm-hmm. I mean, love him or hate him, Jazz Chisholm would be good TV if put in the right situation. Yeah.
So you mentioned Adam Wainwright. This is just a tangent, but I'd love to get both of your opinions on this. So watching the playoffs this year, I think, because I have always hated AJ Pierzynski because I'm a human, I think that team of Adam Wainwright, AJ Pierzynski, and I forget, is it Amin? I forget who the I
believe so, yes, Adam Amin,
yeah. They are great. I have really enjoyed those broadcasts. Much better, obviously, than a Smoltz broadcast, which you got to be, I don't know, I don't enjoy listening to John Smoltz complain about today's players and today's game for 2 hours. I think they've been a great team. Wainwright and Pierzynski have just been talking pitch sequencing and really giving you some great inside baseball that you typically don't get on these broadcasts, especially national broadcasts.
Yeah, I think they've been really, really good. And I think you have Pierzynski and Wainwright share that knowledge of the game with kind of different approaches. Because as you said, a lot of people dislike Pierzynski, and especially during his playing career, whereas Wainwright was kind of the other way around. But they match up very well in the booth together. Yeah, I think they've been good. I think that, when you get recently retired guys who have some sort of idea of how to be on a broadcast and an understanding of what fans would be interested in, but just as importantly, what they're not going to be interested in, which sometimes is stories about things that aren't relevant, but just pop into your head, which you see more often in the cases of guys that are on local broadcast teams, right? And they're just there kind of because they're names. But another guy I've really enjoyed listening to over the past couple of postseasons, and I wish he would get more assignments as the postseason goes on, is Ben McDonald. He's a guy that I really have enjoyed. I haven't listened to a ton of him just because he's not there. Sometimes I'll just listen to him on Orioles games because I enjoy listening to him talk about the game. But he's another guy I think he's one of my favorites to listen to.
Well, he certainly got his name out there the last week.
Yeah.
And as a hockey fan, I don't watch hockey on ESPN, so I'm with him there. I think that's because kind of something what you mentioned is I like the local broadcasts because you get more in-depth information, while the nationals are just the national broadcast, I should say, are
right.
Trying to, let everybody know the information, assuming that you don't watch this team all the time. And they don't really know all the inside information because they're not watching the team all the time. So I really wish they would just start getting local broadcasters to do the national games as color people. I think that would be the best thing here. But I just wanted to, I'm glad you agree with that, because I've really been enjoying AJ Pierzynski, which is something I never thought I would say, but here we are. All right, so that'll do it for show number 300. Make sure to join us next week. We will finish up our conversation with Ryan Fagan. Also, we did play Wax Packs Heroes with him, Good cards, not going to lie. You're going to want to hear who he pulled from an 87 top set. So very exciting stuff. If you want more of us, you can find more of us. It's all in the show notes, first of all. But you can also just Google Two Strike Noise. That's TWO Strike Noise. That'll take you to our pages where you can find us on social media, on YouTube. I stream 3 times a week on Twitch. We also have a Gmail address that Mark is a big fan of.
Oh, you can write to us at Two Strike Noise. Again, spell it out, TWO Strike Noise at gmail.com.
All right, that'll do it for episode number 300. Thank you again to Ryan Fagan for joining us, and we will see you again on the next episode of Two Strike Noise.
Thank you. God bless you. Have a great day.